So why don't we get started? So the first item that we have on our agenda today is an update and sharing of some kind of important points of information regarding the PrAP committee and the county funds that are set aside for Pikesville. So Gone Community Planning Division Chief is going to be giving that update to us all. Like I said in my email, you know, there's time to answer questions and for comments and things like that. So, you know, we'll go ahead with that once Gone has given her update. So Gone, if you want to go ahead and start us off, that would be great.
Thank you, Alex. Good evening, everyone. So I hope everybody can hear me. It's a pleasure to be back. Thank you. All right, so Alex has been receiving questions about the use of county funds. So we thought it would be good to add it as an item to the agenda for discussion tonight. Before we start, I just want to remind everyone that in FY22, there were $235,000 that were allocated to Pikesville for streetscape improvements. And those were like replacement of benches, trash cans, and lampposts. So the project was started with Bill Skibinski, who was the previous planner, and that in coordination with other agencies. So out of the $235,000, there is a remaining balance of approximately $150,000. And that's after we remove the cost of the benches and the trash cans. So then in FY23, another 100K got added to the Pikesville account. Now the PrAP has a total of 250K just towards county money for implementation of the plan. So now how can that money be used and what can the money be used for? I know you have started working on your worksheets, which brought up the whole discussion about membership and also about voting. But I believe that before we even vote or before you vote on the voting language, I think there is need to clarify criteria for using this county money. So generally, it is for capital expenditure. So meaning improvement that will last at least 15 years. And improvement that cannot be picked up or carried away. So, but having said that, there is some flexibility in the use of this money for operating costs, for example, maintenance of landscaping. Once the county determines project eligibility, so the next criteria is the fiscal agent. So as part of your worksheet, you should identify the organization that will be applying to receive the funds. The applicant needs to be a 501c. They must be in good standing with the state of Maryland. But also something that I need to clarify is that the county cannot be that fiscal agent. So it has to be coming from a 501c from the community. So after the county determines that it's an eligible project and that there is an organization in place to receive the fund, the application goes to the grant process. And that can approximately take about 8 to 10 weeks. And that is if everything goes smoothly. So the review, how is that 8 to 10 weeks broken down? So there is a review process, which usually takes 3 to 4 weeks. Then it's submitted for a 14-day notice, which is the 2 weeks. And if there is no objection from any of the councilmen, it goes to the grant agreement signature, which is, again, another 2 to 3 weeks. So I know that was a lot of information, but it's all that to just say that with the implementation of this plan, a fiscal agent will be a major part in doing anything right now with Pikesville. So not only with the county money that you have right now, but also with like any other grant source, either coming from the state or like from federal, any other source that the committee should actually be seeking in order to implement the projects in the action plan. So I have to say that Pikesville were very lucky to start implementation with county money on the table, but it's not always the case. like for example, in other communities, they started, implementing by going and seeking grant from the state. So I'm sure you all have a lot of questions. I'm just gonna stop talking right now, and I'm gonna try to answer the best that I can.
Thanks, Gunay, and I can facilitate the questions. So we'll just look at who has their hands raised. I think I saw Ruth raise her hand first. So Ruth, if you want to go ahead, and then we'll go to Tom, Kristen, and so on.
Hi, Gunay. Thank you for that presentation. This is all brand new to us and good information, these guidelines. And one of them that you mentioned was that it should last, the project that you're seeking money for should last at least 15 years, 15. So the question I have is, like we're requesting streetscape and design, some funds to augment a grant that we already received for a mural. And a mural is usually expected, murals last longer, but a mural is usually expected to only have a lifespan of about 5 years. And of course, there are many murals that are there longer, but that's sort of the standard. So does that mean that you can't request money for something like a mural, or is it flexible?
So with this county money, it's very flexible. Usually, when we define capital projects, we have that 15 years lifetime behind that definition versus operating costs, which is like everyday costs. So with the money that we have right now, the 250K, it's very flexible. And I think I did say that even part of like maintenance, like if it was maintenance of a public, a mural or maintenance of landscaping, those type of project would be included as part of this county money.
So it's a guideline. It's not like written in stone.
Exactly. It's not written in stone.
Thank you. That's
You're
helpful.
welcome. Sure.
Okay. Hello?
Yes, sorry, my control bar disappeared. Tom, you can go ahead.
Okay. One, I'm gonna want to follow up with what Ruth said because it's a little confusing. Question 2 is, what I understand is there was 235,000 allocated in fiscal 22, of which roughly 150, or I think roughly 80 remains.
150 remains.
150 remains. I can't read my own handwriting. So that means there's 150 plus 230 for next year. That is at our proposal, or is that 150 disappears?
No, so out of the 235, now you have 150 remaining. So that is for FY22. And in FY23, you receive an additional 100K. So now you have
an additional 100. Understood. I understand. Okay. And then I understand the arithmetic. And I guess the other question is sort of piggybacking on what Ruth said. We do need to understand better what the capital meaning of capital is under the circumstances. I worked a great deal in capital industries. Other than buildings, there are very few, and machinery, there are very few things in this world that last for 15 years. Benches and trash cans certainly don't. So I think it would be very helpful if we get some kind of examples of what would qualify as capital equipment under this kind of, or capital improvement under this kind of scenario. I don't want to spend time doing that now, but perhaps that guidance, if it's written down someplace, would really be helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, so yeah, we will provide you with some type of guidelines. Those are just like some definition that we usually use behind that capital, but it's very flexible. Like for example, site designs, engineering, all that is part of the capital. which you're talking about. And I know that also trash cans and benches do not last 15 years, but it's just anything that's like really shovel ready that will make like the biggest impact in the community.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, Kristen, you can go ahead.
Thank you. Hi, Gone. That was fantastic. I'm so glad that information came out. I have two questions. The first question is, can a corporation be a fiscal agent?
So yes, so as part of the corporation, if it's a 501c3 or a 501c6 with good standing with the state of Maryland, then yes, they can be a fiscal agent with the county.
Okay, but only if they're a 501c. So like Colonial Village, the Improvement Association is incorporated, but we're not a 501c.
So in that case, I do not believe that that is an eligible organization.
Okay, that's good to know. Just wanted to clarify. And then the second question is, your timeline for once for the money, for the use of the money. Now you said 8 to 10 weeks if everything goes smoothly. So I just want to clarify how that runs. So this would be, say, if we put forth the different committees put forth different project requests, is there first a vote within the committees, or do those requests go straight to you, to county planning, and then you review it for 3 to 4 weeks? Where does that work out?
I think for the committee, it would be good for, as you send your worksheets to Alex or the organization subcommittee, there will be a first, review just to make sure that, the projects are eligible. Just to make sure that if it's projects that require property owners, that there is that approval of property owner for private properties, those type of things. And once we make that first cut, then that's when the application move forward with, of course, having a fiscal agent and also having that, all of the other criteria of just making sure the projects are eligible. So I think at first it would be, you guys could, vote within you just to make sure that's a project you want to put together within your subcommittee, and then send it to Alex, which will, then start the application review from the county side.
Okay, great. So you're suggesting, right, within each subcommittee, we would vote together and put forth a project to Alex at whatever given date we just, is decided. And then she can go through and see if it's eligible as the project is written. And then we can work with, and then, if she has to come back with and make revisions, that's fine. But eventually, once we have an eligible project, then that's given to planning for 3 to 4 weeks to review.
Right. And I think that's the process you have been doing so far with submitting your worksheets.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. And then a 14-day notice after that. And then it goes to the council members of Baltimore County for 2 to 3 weeks.
So yeah, so the 14-day notice is the council, is the county council. Okay. And after, once there's no objections, it goes to like a agreement signature, grant agreement signature. And that is the 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And we'll have all of this information by writing.
Okay, great. Next I have Ruth, and then Mel, and then Neville.
Hi, I'm just sending a message to Shelley because she said she was in the waiting room and couldn't get in.
I'm here.
But I just told her, Alex, to try leaving and joining again.
Yeah, she's
on.
in.
I'm
Thank
on.
Here she is. She's here. Yay. Hi, Shelley.
Hi.
So the reason I raised my hand again was, I think you mentioned operating expenses also, and did you say no to that or yes under certain circumstances? And if so, could you elaborate a little bit on that?
So when I mention operating, it is in the case where there is an organization in place to take on the project. Let's say, I don't know, organization XYZ is applying for planters on in Pikesville. So, but then as part of the planters, they also want, maintenance of the planters. So that maintenance of the planters will be an eligible project just because it's part of a bigger package.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
in that case, yes. Did I answer your question?
Yes, yes, I think so.
Okay.
Great, thank you. Mel, you can go ahead.
Okay, thanks. Great presentation. Just a quick clarifying question. You mentioned some of these funds could be used, engineering studies was one of the things you mentioned. I guess I'm interpreting that those funds could be used for planning then a project.
Again, all of these projects will have to go to the planning review.
I got you.
Architectural and engineering
Architectural.
design usually are part of capital,
Okay.
but usually it has to be shovel ready. So planning, I'm not too sure. I'm not 100% sure. Yes, I mean,
Did you just, I couldn't hear the last thing you said. Did you say shovel ready?
I did say shovel ready. Yes.
Ready. So it's got to be, it has to be for something that can be imminently executed.
Ideally, yes.
Got it. Pardon?
That would be ideal. Yes.
Okay, thanks. That's helpful.
Okay, Neville, you can go ahead.
Okay, I heard that you mentioned that engineering can be included, but what about a planning using a consultant? Can those expenses be charged into this fund?
I believe so. You could hire, if the organization can hire a consultant to do the planning and the study, I do believe it's an eligible project. Again, don't quote me on that. All of the projects will have to go to that planning review again.
Yeah, okay. Because Josephine had said at one time that that was not eligible. So this is new and good information. I was pleased to hear that. Again,
do not quote me on that. It's going to have to go to the planning review.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I'm just talking about this county money that you have the $250,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just want to clarify, just to make sure I understood your question correctly, Neville, but planning would not be the one to hire the consultant.
No.
As Gune mentioned, right, it has to be like an external organization. Do we have any other questions, comments? Like Gune said, the plan is to follow up with this written down as guidelines for this money that's set aside. So I think that'll help us all. And yeah, thank you, Gune.
Yeah, you're welcome. I hope you guys had it, not hope, but I'm thinking that you had it really easy on me today because I was expecting a lot of questions.
Tom, do you have a last question?
Yeah, this is very quick. It would be very helpful if we could get a list of the types of projects that have been approved over the past year or so around the county, since pardon me, but the guidelines you gave are not entirely clear in my mind in terms of, well, maybe a little bit of this, a little bit of that, maybe we can include this, maybe we can't include that. I think looking at a list of the types of projects, and you can blank out the name of the receiving organization or whatever you need if it is sensitive, but I think it would be helpful, certainly to me, as I look at projects that may be proposed by my colleagues, whether that would be that would merit working on in order to get to propose approval. That's it. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we can find out similar projects. The only the other grant process that the communities have been using through the planning department has been the CRAG, which is the Commercial Revitalization Action Grant that business organizations have been receiving. And those have been like about $10,000 a year. Recently, they've been getting $20,000 to $30,000 a year, but it's usually about beautification projects, like wayfinding, signage, those type of things. So we can give you copies of those type of projects with the names, of course, hidden. But besides that, I don't know from the county planning department if there are any other grant that communities have been using really.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, are we ready to move on to the next point on the agenda? Great, I almost want a drum roll, but we are at the second point on the agenda, which is the voting members discussion and vote. So we'll start off with Larry, chair of the organization subcommittee, who's going to present the two recommendations from the organization subcommittee. We'll start with that, and then we'll take it from there, and I'll just kind of let you all know, what kind of process we'll go through. I had the chance to read up a bit on Robert's rules since our last meeting. Thank you, Larry, for the cheat sheet. So I should be better equipped to take us through that process this time. So Larry, you can go ahead.
Thank you, Alex. Good evening, everybody. As you all know, excuse me, the organization subcommittee was charged with taking a recommendation that we presented at the last APC meeting, taking it back to the committee and revising it to present at this committee meeting. We had 2 meetings and countless hours of email exchanges in the intervening days. And so the committee decided to present 2 recommendations, or subcommittee, I should say. If I can, I'm going to share my screen. I think it'll let me do that. And I believe, Alex, did this all go out via email? I just can't remember.
It did, yeah, but it's helpful for you to share it again, I think. Thank you.
So if you'll bear with me, I'll just read it through quickly. Can you all see this? I can enlarge it if it's not. Here, okay, so recommendation A is that voting members of the Action Plan Committee are representatives or alternates for one of the 10 organizations on the APC. Individuals who do not represent an organization will be given 1 vote equal in weight to an organization, which they can cast as a block. And these are the organizations. We've got Thousand Friends, CVNIA, High, Dunbar and Stevenson, GBCC, PCC, Pikesville Armory Foundation, PGCC, Pine Ridge, and Suburb Park. Then recommendation B is that, well, it starts off the Pikesville Revitalization Action Plan states there is to be an action plan committee comprised of Pikesville residents and a chair elected by its members for a 2-year term. That's straight out of the PRAP. Be it moved, I'm not making the motion, this is what it says, but be it moved that the voting members of the APC of the Pikesville Revitalization Action Plan includes representatives of organizations and at-large members who are committed to working in partnership on the revitalization and long-term health of the Pikesville Commercial Revitalization District, and have demonstrated by their attendance and participation not only a strong interest in Pikesville revitalization, but a commitment to continue to participate and attend future meetings. Commitment is defined as a contribution to the development and/or implementation of the PRAP and regular meeting attendance. Regular meeting attendance is defined as participation in at least 50% of committee meetings within a 6-month period. As partners, everyone on the committee has a voice and gets a vote. Organizations, individuals, businesses. The current list of at-large members, of course, this is the recommended list. The current list of at-large members who meet the meeting attendance criteria described above is as follows. Do I need to read every name?
No.
Okay, thank you. And then attendance at fewer than half the meetings without justification shall be grounds for forfeiting their vote. Other voting members may be elected in the future. And then the organizations below are included in the PRAP as Pikesville community organizations or business stakeholders, and have confirmed that the listed representative will serve on the APC. And this is the exact same list as the list in recommendation A. So as you know, an email went out stating that everyone who attended or attends this meeting will get to vote at this meeting on these recommendations, or whichever comes first. So after the email went out, the organization committee reconsidered this and came up with an alternate recommendation. Again, just a recommendation that the folks that would vote tonight wouldn't be anyone in attendance, but would be the members, well, really the members in those lists that we showed, the individuals and the organizations, that the 50% attendance requirement, not a criteria, was applied to. So again, that's a recommendation. The email said everyone in attendance would get to vote. Our recommendation as a subcommittee, we took it to our committee. It wasn't unanimous, but 4 out of the 6 of us decided to recommend this abridged list. I think if by my count, if we go with just the vetted list, so to speak, I think it would mean that 4 of the folks that are here in the meeting that are attending would not get vote. If we go with everyone in attendance, it's another 4, unless I miscounted. So that is what's on the table, and I will hand it back over to Alex.
All right, thank you, Larry. I guess I should start off by, maybe briefly discussing this last recommendation first.
Procedural question, just the procedural question, Alex.
Sure.
Larry just mentioned there are 4 people, according to the vetted criteria, that would not be voting who are in attendance. Who are those 4? I don't know if I recognize it. Larry, could you identify those 4?
Yeah, and Alex, correct me if I'm wrong, but Bonnie Kaufman, Jim Paulson, Leslie Portnoy, Jason Roth, and Shelley Morheim, unless Shelley's representing.
No, they're on that list. They're on that vetted list.
Did I overlook?
Yeah, they're on that vetted list.
Yes.
Jason and Bonnie are.
Okay, then I apologize that I.
No, that's important because that's a number.
And Jim.
Yeah,
excuse
Jason
me,
and Bonnie.
And Jim is also.
Okay,
vetted.
then I stand corrected. Thank you.
Okay, so again, this is just procedural. According to that vetted list, and you correct me if I'm wrong, Leslie, Portney, and Shelley are the only ones that are not on that vetted list.
Actually,
else?
I'm here representing the Pikesville Armory Foundation.
Oh, you're here instead of Jack. I got you. Okay. That's clarified. But
So
okay,
who
so
are
that's,
the 2 then, Mel?
pardon me?
Who are the 2?
Well, then no, it's just Leslie. Of the folks who are here who are not on that vetted list, only Leslie Portney is not on that vetted list.
Okay.
So that's 18 altogether.
Obviously, when you say everyone, you're not including Michelle, Ngone, or Alex,
Right.
That's right.
but otherwise Leslie. Yes.
So there are 18 on that vetted list and 19 in attendance tonight. That's what I count. Okay.
I mean, with it being a recommendation, unless we want it to be a motion, I think, Leslie, it's up to you whether you want to vote or not at this point.
Well, excuse me. That's the whole point of this discussion. Is
But do you
that
want it to be a motion? Should
have
I?
a list. We have this list, and it's not. We're talking about whether it's everyone or not, but I don't know. Are we talking about whether it's everyone, or are we talking
Yeah,
about?
we're talking about whether it's everyone or not tonight that will.
Whether it's 19 or 18, that's what the practical effect of tonight. Whether
Right,
Leslie, that's the only difference.
Excuse me.
So my question is, I don't know who determined the 50%, who that these 9 individuals, I think it is, not Leslie's name is not on the list, but I don't know who determined that they were the ones who had met the 50% attendance mark. Was that one of you 3 conveners?
I did, yes. I looked back at the records of who had attended the last 6 meetings and calculated who had attended at least 50% of those. That's how the list came about.
Right.
Hi,
Okay.
can I say something also?
Oh,
Sure.
God.
I'm Leslie. Hi, everybody that doesn't know.
Can you
me.
speak up, Leslie? Can
I'm
you speak up?
talking loud.
Oh,
You
now
can't-
I can hear you. I can hear you now.
Okay. I'm comfortable with not voting because I have not been to 50% of the meetings and I feel like I'm not as informed as I could be. So I'm okay with that.
Well, thank you for chipping in like that.
Okay.
That shortens our discussion a little bit, probably.
So that's 18.
That was the
That's 18.
idea, so
That's
then-
18 eligible. That's 18 eligible to vote.
Right, okay. So now that we've determined that, oh, go ahead, Larry.
Alex, I'm sorry, I just must be blind. The list I'm looking at, I don't see those other names. So what am I missing? I just wanted to make sure.
So the current list of at-large members who meet the meeting attendance criteria described above is as follows. We have Deb, we have Bonnie, we have Lynn, I'm sorry, I'm just using first names to go quicker. Mel, Jim, Jason, Arlene, and Jaren.
Thank
Is that
you.
not what you see?
And that should be 9.
That's fine. If everybody else sees it, that's fine. Thank
With the organization reps too.
It's 7.
No, it's 9.
Do them again, Alex, if you would, please, so we can count them.
Deb, Bonnie, Lynn, Mel, Jim, Jason, Arlene, and Jaren. That's 9. Or
8 or 9?
9.
no, it's 8. Sorry.
Oh, Jesus.
It's
God.
8. It's 8.
Mm-hmm.
It's 8.
Oh, my God.
I've had this list written out
Oh,
from the list that they provided. and
Yeah, it
it's-
was sent out to everyone by email.
Yeah, it's 8 individuals and 10 organizations, and that's 18 altogether, which is what the number we've been dealing with.
Okay, so can we move forward with that then? It looks like everyone's, well, mostly Leslie is okay with not voting, and everyone else then we're basically following what we had originally said. So great. I'm glad we were able to decide that. So with that, would anyone like to bring the first recommendation as a motion to the committee?
I so move.
Okay, and do we have someone to second the motion?
Seconded.
Great, and so we can now debate the motion. Does anyone have anything that they'd like to say? We can use the same raise hands methods that we've been using before.
I have a question first.
Sure, go ahead, Howard, and sorry, just quickly, Mel, I don't know if your hand is still raised, but if not, you can lower it. So go ahead, Howard.
The communication that I got from Larry on December the 9th, which submitted these recommendations, included 11 organizations under recommendation A, and then the final that I got on the same day, I guess it was later, has 10 organizations, and Pikesville Community, I think that's what it's called,
Pikesville Township.
is not listed, and I'm curious to know what happened.
So Larry or, Deb, if you want to speak to that, either of you, I think you can go ahead.
Deb, I'd like to hear.
Howard, hi. We never voted to be put on this list. We've identified several problems with being on it. Number one, we can't keep running back to our board. Number two, our membership is less than 10% of the houses that are within our community, and we don't feel that we can represent them. Okay, so in our place, people don't even know their members just because Arlene made some boundaries at some point in time. That's not a true member. A true member is someone that pays their dues or at least participates through email or in general meetings. Our last general meeting had 11 people there, including the board. So we didn't ask to come on as a group. And I know there's probably some trepidation that if A passes, we're not going to be part of a vote. But in all good consciousness, I can't deliver that vote.
Well, that's a concern. We need more community organizations, not less. I think it's been expressed or understood that every community association that uses the Pikesville downtown area as its downtown and surrounds it really should be part of this whole process. It's so important to each of the residential communities.
Sure.
Ralston in particular, I think we need to work on to try to get them to join us, get organized and join us. And I remember, Deb, you're saying something to the effect that it was hard to get the approval of the board for the positions that need to be taken, but that's what we need to do on behalf of our community association.
I don't believe we have that mandate. Now, what I do believe is that we've got 4 people right now working on the ground for PrEP out of our organization. We talk about it, we will try and recruit more people, but just because you say that we're an active community organization with PrEP doesn't make it so. We've got to get the people.
Well, can I jump in for a second to comment?
Sure, go ahead, Ruth.
I feel as Howard does that I hope that we grow this organization. So if Deb, for example, and sort of Deb's organization is in the same situation as Ralston, they're both in close proximity to the commercial corridor. We really want them to be included, but they're not in a position right now to, Ralston doesn't really have, they're not organized, and Deb is, telling us the reality that her group is not large or very well established or representative right now of the community. But hopefully they will be. Hopefully that will happen. And when, maybe 6 months from now, Deb will come back to the group and say, we've had a recruitment drive and we have a Facebook group and page and we did this and we did that. And we are more robust now than we were before. And we'd like to apply to rejoin, to be a member organization. So it's, to me, this is not a list that is written in stone.
And I think that goes, if we would go with option B, that's the same thing with the individuals. I mean, we need committed people, individuals, organizations, businesses. We just need commitment.
All right, thank you. Ruth, I had you next. I don't know if you were,
Yeah, I don't know if this is the proper time to speak to speak about motion A and to speak in favor of it, or if there are more questions before we get to that point, or if this would be a good time to do that.
Yeah, I mean, we're in the discussion, so you can certainly speak in favor of the motion. I won't call the question yet. I think we want to hear from everyone first, but you can go ahead and
I'm hoping that we can have a discussion. So if I could I might take a couple minutes because I'm going to try and address the various concerns or arguments that have come up and the positives as well. So I think motion A came about because I think we made an assumption, and maybe it was misguided, but we made an assumption that this was a organization whose structure would be similar to other community associations of organizations. And that seemed to be the original impetus for the PrEP. And I know that it uses the word residents in the PrEP language, but of course, members and leadership of community organizations are expected to be residents of Pikesville. So I don't think the word resident is necessarily only intended to mean individual residents. I think it means that they want there to be ownership and participation by the people who live in Pikesville, not people who live in Howard County or something like that. So with that said, the motion A is based on a model that I have worked with and seen over and over. I know PGCC and PCC are perfect examples. I'm pretty sure I got the idea for the individual block, the block of individual members from, I was a member of PGCC for 10 years and I was on the executive board for 5 years. And I think that they are an organization of organizations. They have, I think, 14 or 15 neighborhood associations in their umbrella. And then they have, or at least they used to have, that individual block member category. I don't know if they still do that. PCC, I think, is just associations, like 14 or 15 also. Towson Community Alliance has 30 associations, but none of these groups that are groups of associations, umbrella organizations, which is what the the committee seems to be, have individual members. So that was the model. And we feel that it's more of a representative democracy for it to be an association of organizations, because each of those organizations is representative of a larger group of people. I think Pine Ridge has 300 members and households, and PGCC probably represents around 10,000 households. So the idea of giving one vote to each individual equal in weight to that of 10,000 people, that just doesn't seem mathematically correct. So that was the impetus for structuring it with organizations and one individual vote. I heard some objection that, like facetiously, like individuals are expected to get together, to caucus together. And actually, yes, if you want to cast your vote, you need to get together and see if you can align your values and use your vote to have some voice in the organization, because that's what all the associations are doing. They're either entrusting their representative to vote for them, or their representative is going back to their executive board or their board of directors to get guidance on consequential votes. So why shouldn't we have the same expectation of a block of individuals? I don't think that that's overreaching or asking too much if you want to have a vote. I wish I could think of some of the other things that I think are important, but I think others who support this motion can chime in with some of the other important points in support of it.
Thank you, Ruth. I have Tom next, and then Jared and Kristen, so we can go in that order. Tom, go ahead.
Sure. I think there needs to be a recognition that this is a volunteer organization, an organization of volunteers from all parts of this community, reasonably representative of the parts of the community. So to say that individual X does not get a say in determining which project moves forward, for example, because all that individual did was put in a great deal of sweat equity, is just unacceptable in my mind. It is critical in order for us to get more volunteers, not less, to give them a voice in what this organization proposes to do. It is understood that we are not going to necessarily have money to spend. We do have issues about what projects we evaluate, how we evaluate them, who gets to evaluate them, what those processes are, and that to me is absolutely critical. We cannot afford to leave knowledge out, to not take advantage of knowledge simply because, well, they don't represent uh, a community development, if you will. I think I I just think that we are buying a great deal more acrimony that is unnecessary. It is unnecessary to have uh, 5 individual volunteers or 6 individual volunteers be put together in that group and saying, well, once you agree, once you by a 3-2 vote, you can decide whether this works or not, and then you get 1/10 of the vote or 1/11 of the vote of everybody else. No, 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 no. People who are involved, people who are working on, who are putting in the sweat equity, I think that I like that term, deserve to have a voice equal to other people on this committee. Again, my view, I am incredibly opposed. I'm very strongly opposed to this particular construct. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you. Darren, you can go ahead.
Thanks. Yeah, there's 2 points I want to make. The first is that I think with either option, it doesn't sound like the criteria for who is represented is super strict. I think I just want to call that out as what I think is a bit of a flaw in the process overall. It sounds like there's not so much agreement on what constitutes an organization that should be represented, as well as it also, I don't see anywhere outlined like what the future potential for organizations would be. Like if there was a new organization, would they get representation? How would that process work? That's unclear to me. And conversely, the same is true for option B, where like, I don't know. I mean, does the person have to live in the area? I mean, it just seems to me that anybody could show up and just start contributing, or just participating and not necessarily contributing and still have a say in the matter. And I don't think I'm comfortable with either of those things. That said, it seems like we have to make a choice. So that brings me to my second point that I wanted to share, which is that however the vote turns out tonight, from my own perspective, I just want to share like why I started coming to these meetings. I never felt that or expected that I would be a decision maker. I simply wanted to bring my ideas to the group as just, maybe having something to contribute that nobody else had thought of, in the hopes that other like-minded people would see, good ideas, and everybody here would kind of make the decisions for the best of Pikesville. And I just hope that no one loses sight of that ultimate goal. It's like we're all here for the same reason. I still don't have any expectations that I'll be a decision maker or not. I'm happy to just keep showing up and contributing my ideas and participating to whatever extent I think would benefit Pikesville. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Darren. Kristen, you can go ahead.
Thanks, Alex. Yeah, so I think this is such an interesting model and opportunity. And I believe that community engagement in this is key. This is really a grassroots kind of movement where you're just trying to get the more voices and the more representation, the better. Ralston is a good example where they don't have an organized committee. But if a member of Ralston joined and had a voice, should they be denied that just because they don't have an organization? And that also goes to A as well, where Jaron brought up the point where it's what a committee is or organization is very loose. Could 2 people just on the side come together and form an organization and start their own? I do think resident is kind of already an obligation because that's the only real criteria that's listed in the PrAP. And I believe that's the case because it should be the case. This is a voice, the more voices of Pikesville, the more representation across the board from Pikesville, the better. So I'm favoring the blend of organizations with individuals just because I feel the more input, the better. Yeah, and we could really, you would touch on more demographics and more people, even the disenfranchised ones that were not able to get together and form an organization, and they would be given a voice.
Thank you, Kristen. Arlene, you can go ahead.
Hi, thank you. And I do also agree with everybody who has last spoken. We need more young people. We need people with new ideas, with fresh ideas. We can't just do things the way they used to be done. It wasn't working. So I think we all need to step back and not be afraid of change. It doesn't have to just be communities. It can be communities and individuals, and there's a lot more individuals that do need to join. And I hope everybody sees that that's an alternative that is the right way to go. So thank you.
Thanks, Arlene. I just wanted to read Beth's comment in chat in case everyone hasn't had a chance to read it. She says, I couldn't agree more with Jaren. In its infancy, this committee was formed to make recommendations for Pikesville revitalization. It is not a legal entity. So thank you, Beth. I then have Jason. You can go ahead.
Yeah, hi, thank you. And I just want to reiterate what everyone has been saying, but like Ruth was saying originally that everyone's represented under umbrella organizations. Well, Stevenson Crossing and Post are not. We're not members of PGCC or PCC, so we're really not, and we're in the heart of Pikesville. You know, when I was an officer in our community, we were a member of PGCC or at sometimes PCCC or both. But right now, I think that it's incumbent upon this organization to get individuals who are interested in working on the betterment of Pikesville. And even if they're not represented by one of the umbrella organizations in the area. The other point I want to make I want to emphasize that we need new young blood with new fresh ideas. Like when Jared was saying about the bicycle paths in the center of the city, in the center of Pikesville, I thought it was an outstanding idea. There's a lot of new interesting ideas out there that some of the umbrella organizations have been around and they just don't consider. So I think that it would be just great to have new and young people and energetic people involved. Thank you.
I just hope since Jason
Ruth,
my name.
wait a minute.
Hold on. Since Jason evoked my name, I just want a point of information. I didn't mean like you're not an umbrella. I meant that the PRAP is like an umbrella organization. I didn't mean that you have to, I wasn't referring to PGCC and you had to be in one or the other. I was saying that this committee is like these umbrella organizations. So that was just my point of
no, thank you, Ruth. I understand, but basically we're crossing because the officers now are not part of any umbrella.
But that's fine. That's fine. That's not what I was saying though.
Right.
That's all. Just a point of information.
Thanks for clarifying, Ruth, and thank you, Jason. I have some hands. I think they're leftover hands. Arlene, Jaren, you just okay? Arlene, did you have
Leftover.
something you want to add?
Nope.
Okay, and what about you, Mel? Old hand. Okay. Dean.
No.
Oh, go ahead. Go
Sorry.
ahead, Mel. Sorry about that.
It's tough to keep doing this. Thank you very much. I want to kind of back up the four previous folks who made some very eloquent comments. There should be no doubt that I strongly urge this full committee to vote against recommendation A. Also, I strongly commend Larry Shugam, the chair of the organizational subcommittee, for agreeing to oppose recommendation A and support recommendation B, which was the obvious compromise between what I and some others had proposed originally and recommendation A. The comments by me and several others on more than one occasion indicated that a recommendation that included more individuals representing a broad spectrum of folks who have diligently and faithfully dedicated their participatory effort from anywhere from 7 to 44 years, that would be advisable to solicit. To have an organization which is charged with implementing legislatively the action plan, eliminating people like myself, I'm going to stop right now. I'm going to underscore emphatically to address some who have spread falsehoods. This is not about me. It is also about Billy Chase, Dean Rundell, Arlene Rosenberg, Jason Roth, Ron Atman, and even Howard and Neville. Theoretically, if their respective organizations chose someone else to represent them, represent their organization, and they be denied a vote, that's just plain wrong. These people, among others, have dedicated years of coming up with this legislation that the county council passed is just not right. We need more, as most of the other folks have said, we need more involvement. That's the key. And the cumbersomeness of having a, for lack of a better word, another subcommittee called the individuals subcommittee, it's just cumbersome, as many have pointed out. Recommendation B, if I could make a side, addresses all of this. It allows voting and participation by those who have dedicated a lot of time and effort in actually authoring the plan that you're working on and implementing it. The other point that recommendation B arrived at in that compromise, that could have easily been jumped on and become the compromise between what some had offered originally and this recommendation A, so to speak. Recommendation B is the compromise. And it gets to perhaps the flaw in perhaps my original recommendation and establishes mathematical criteria by which eligible voters are determined. Alex has diligently done the math, so to speak, in the calculation. So I urge you to keep moving forward with this bold plan that Howard and I originally started. And it was all based on a concept to transform Pikesville. And that concept included arts as a critical component to create a critical enough mass of artwork that will transform Pikesville. In finality, I urge a vote against this recommendation A.
Thank you, Mike. Dean, I have you next.
I'm only kidding, but it really is old. This I've struggled to be involved in this because I'm struggling with all of the conversation back and forth about who should be and who shouldn't be involved. I was leaning towards A, but I'm also leaning towards B, and I'm not sure how to deal with that. I know that if more and more individuals get involved and more people are involved and have a vote, it could be extremely cumbersome, and so there needs to be some determination as to how many actually of this committee would be voting members, and you'd have to stick with that. I do believe there needs to be younger people involved. I'd love to see some high school students involved in this. They're going to grow up here in Pikesville. They ought to have some say in how they see this developing to their benefit, so they don't decide they want to go somewhere else. But I also think that if you had what we have right now is 18 or 19 or 17, whatever it would be, that's that would not be too cumbersome. I don't think it's difficult for members. For instance, our membership. And I want to go back to, comment about how there's always a very, very small percentage of the households that are going to represent an entire neighborhood. It'll always be the case in any organization. There just are are few that want to get in and work towards that. So we're a small group. We represent about 400 homes, but the board of directors is a small group of 11 people, and we put out a newsletter every quarter or so that keeps everybody informed of what's going on. So I would have no problem representing those 400 neighborhoods and making a decision, yes or no on certain items. I don't think I'd have any problem with that. The individuals, I do see a need to have some individuals involved, and so I guess after having thought about this and listened to everybody over the last couple of meetings, I'd have to go with looking at recommendation B, but also there is some determination in here, as Jaron was talking about, with regard to who is in and who is out, and how many ultimately should be the maximum that would be representing this committee. So I guess I have to go. I'm actually babysitting. It doesn't look like it, does it? But so I'm going to have to, if I have to leave here, so I'm going to have to cast a vote against A and go for B, which is just the opposite of what I thought I was going to do when I came on here. But that'll be cast my vote there.
You're muted, Alex. You're muted, Alex. Alex, you're muted.
Okay.
You're muted, Alex. You're muted.
She hears you.
I think she's just having an issue with her sound or the
Okay, thank you.
connection. So just give her a second.
Hear me now?
Yes, but
Okay.
speak up. Speak up if you can.
Oh, sorry.
Alex,
Oh, you
speak
can.
up if you can. It's very soft.
Okay, is that better?
That's better.
I'm so sorry. Thank you so much, Dean, for coming in and sharing your thoughts with us, especially when you're babysitting. It was nice to hear from you. And sorry about that little glitch there. Gone, go ahead. I have you as next.
Well, I just want to, say something, but I just want to make sure before you start, voting, which is one of the other item on the agenda. I just wanted to say that, it took 4 years for the making of this plan. So the study started in 2017. All of you here were involved in, the work and the dedication. And then the plan was not adopted until December of last year. So it's been 1 year since the plan was adopted. So all I'm saying, depending on however you want to vote here, I really would like that we start the new year fresh and strong, and that really focus on the implementation of the plan, which is why we have convened this committee. So if we cannot get into agreement on who is voting or on the voting language, I really would like us to go back in the beginning of the year, because I'm thinking that this is the last meeting for 2022, right? So starting 2023, let's refocus on the implementation. Let's work on the worksheet. Let's design, determine who are going to be those organizations or that fiscal agent, so that we can start implementing the plan, so we can start spending the money that the county has given us, and we can seek for more money. The voting, I feel like, is one part of the bigger guideline for the committee to move on with implementation. So if we cannot get into agreement, maybe the subcommittee, organization subcommittee, along with Department of Planning, can come together and draft, one holistic plan guideline for moving forward. So that's all I wanted to say. Just trying to see how we can refocus again on the implementation. Thank you.
Thanks, Gone.
Truer words were never spoken.
Thank you, Tom. Okay, Howard, you can go ahead.
I just want to add one or two thoughts to what Dean and Ruth have said about recommendation A. I actually, as I've read these over and studied them, I viewed recommendation A as the compromise. And there's a lot of things have been said about we need younger people, we need more creative thoughts. No question about any of that. And we want to hear from everybody and all their thoughts. And there is no effort whatsoever, I hope, under recommendation A to silence anybody. Everybody involved in this has wonderful ideas, and I think everybody very respectfully listens to all of these ideas and gives them a lot of weight. And there's no effort whatsoever to silence anybody. Nobody is eliminated from this process under recommendation A. As to whether voting as a block is cumbersome, I guess there's some truth to that, but that's exactly what every representative of a community association has to deal with. We are representatives of large numbers of residents of Pikesville. And under a representative democracy, it is cumbersome and awkward oftentimes and difficult, and community associations for sure don't have a high representation of their members that participate in board meetings or regular meetings that they have. It's usually like 10% or maybe even less, but that's typical. And nonetheless, we are still representative of the hundreds of residents, if not thousands, within our community associations, and there are processes that need to be followed to be a representative of them, and that's what we're doing. So in order to have equality of the votes, which is so, I don't understand how you could do it any other way, but not to have individuals have an equal vote along with hundreds or thousands of residents of Pikesville. Those of us who represent community associations are responsible to them to carry out their wishes. Those who vote on behalf of just themselves are not responsible to anybody other than themselves. And that doesn't seem right to me. There are people, Mel in particular, and I've said it before, who has been so involved for so many years. I guess you're the 144 years that's been doing this, Mel. I've been doing it for 64 years since I was elected in 1958 to the Constitutional Convention on behalf of this district. So there are a lot of people who have done so much and deserve to have their voices heard and their ideas heard and implemented. And I think recommendation A is the compromise that best accomplishes that.
Thank you, Howard. Next we have Neville and then Ruth and then Tom. I just want to quickly let everyone know that it is 7:40. I'm not trying to end the discussion. I know that it's important to go through this discussion, but if we could maybe just try and keep that in mind and think about maybe at this point trying to introduce new ideas if there are ideas that haven't been introduced yet, and then we can continue going. Okay, so just keeping that in mind. Neville, Ruth, and Tom. Neville, you can go ahead.
Thank you, Alex. I was actually planning on participating in the discussion for motion B, but it looks as though most of the discussion is going to go into motion A. So let me just make some comments at this time. First, my motion for option B or motion B is to accept it based on the fairness and the recognition that a lot of volunteer effort will be needed on this project. This is a working group. I should emphasize this is different to a community association, which is a community group. This is a working group. And I think it is necessary to have a lot of volunteer effort that will be needed on this project. And these people have the right to influence the direction that we take and vote on what they will be working on. In other words, they are going to be putting in long hours on this project. These are volunteers. They're putting in long hours. They're going to be going in a direction. The vote will determine the direction that this group will take. And these are the people who are putting in the work. They have a right to influence the direction in which they will be working. So I feel very strongly that, as had been indicated, I think motion B is the compromise vote. I think it takes into account the importance of all the organizations and the representation that they make to the people of Pikesville. But the working people have also got to be recognized. We recognize that the organizations have representatives who are doing a lot of the work. The individuals, the at-large people are doing a lot of the work. Together, we'll make this happen. And they need to have a say in how this is going to happen. So I think the vote is necessary. I think it's essential for this group. And so I would strongly urge the passage of motion B. And I would like to call a vote for motion A, determine where we're going with motion A, and then move on to motion B.
I don't think we're quite done with the discussion.
Yeah, thank you, Neville. I'm the one that'll call the question once the discussion is over. So Ruth, you can go ahead, and then Tom, and then Shelley.
Well, very briefly, thank you. I thought Howard very eloquently laid out the mathematical reasoning for why motion A is so equitable and fair to everybody. A group of 10 or 15, 5 or 10, who knows, individuals theoretically will have a vote equal in weight to an organization that might represent 1,000 people. So I can't imagine a more equitable distribution. As far as new blood, I totally agree. And we have some new faces here who have really hung in and participated on these subcommittees and at the main meetings. Jaron and Lynn are both individuals who are not here as representatives of an organization, and they've just been working diligently to contribute, and through their subcommittees, their opinions are expressed, and actually the subcommittees are where the work gets done and where you can really have an influence on the outcome. And they don't necessarily expect to have a vote. They're volunteering because they want to see Pikesville advance and be revitalized. And to me, it's no different than a school, for example, that has an administration, but then they have all kinds of committees. They have, the PTA and the lunch buddy committee and this playground, committee and the school crossing committee. And those are all volunteers, and they don't expect to vote, but they're all dedicated to the mission of the organization. So, to imply that just because people don't have a vote means that you won't be able to attract new people and enthusiastic people, who want to put in the effort and volunteer. I think that is just not really how it works in real life. People volunteer all the time, and they do it because they believe in the mission. So that's what I wanted to share, and thank you for letting me.
Thank you, Ruth. Tom, and then Shelley.
Thank you. Let me underscore what Neville had to say. He said it brilliantly. He said it quickly. So I think the idea that we want to get people to come and volunteer and then tell them, by the way, I'm the one who's going to decide what's going to happen, not you, because you're just a worker bee or whatever you are. It's going to work with some people. It's not going to work with others. I wish we had the problem that we had 1,000 volunteers that we need to worry about how we're going to make decisions. We don't. We have 18, and we have a handful who are not associated with organizations. So I think we need to be very open to a structure where we encourage people and reward them with having a vote and having them actually participate in decision making, not just sweat equity. Thank you. I'm done.
Thank you, Tom. Shelley, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I think really what Ngone said was correct, that there's an awful lot of focus going on, several meetings just on this process question, where the real focus ought to be is on implementation. This committee is not particularly representative of Pikesville at all. And Pikesville is 42% African American, for example. It's also been said that there's not a whole lot of diversity in terms of age and so on. That's all true. I think we have a better shot at getting more people involved in a serious way, getting implementation started if under Plan A. And that would be my vote. I'm going to have to jump off the meeting, but please register the vote for the Armory Foundation for Plan A. Thanks.
Thank you, Shelley. Can I just confirm then, is your vote also against Plan B then?
I thought we were voting on Plan A.
We will be, but then if that doesn't pass, we'll go to Plan B. So I just want to make sure that I have to vote for the second as well.
I guess. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
Sorry to put you in that situation. It's just the situation we're in right now. So Mel, is your hand still raised?
Yeah, just a quick one. And I think we're probably ready for a vote, if you don't mind. A lot of comments have been very forthright. This is a reasonable size organization. It is not the entire state of Maryland. And as a matter of fact, there was a time when Maryland voting for governor was not one man, one vote, pardon the use of man, but it was a compilation of kind of an electoral college type of thing, where in order to win the governorship, you had to carry 12 out of the 23 jurisdictions in Maryland to be elected governor. Guess who got elected? Not people necessarily from Baltimore City. So one man, one vote, again, forgive me, is the way to go. It's a reasonable size organization, as Dean pointed out, and I'm glad to see that he was able to listen to some of the discussion with an open mind. And it is the compromise. The compromise is not one person representing several people. Again, that is that old-fashioned system that doesn't allow one man, one vote. It's a reasonable size organization that 18 people, if that's the number, can come together by work of subcommittees and making recommendations to this full committee. And I really think that that is the way to go. That compromise is clearly, it doesn't involve personalities. I know there were some concerns about my original proposal, or some of our original proposals, that required some personalities be judged. And it doesn't do that. It sets forth definite criteria by which people who are eligible to vote are in fact eligible to vote. And so it's a mathematical thing. It's not personal. So again, I recommend urging voting against Proposition A.
Thank you, Mel. Tom, did you have your hand still raised?
I'm done.
Okay. All right.
I do have one thing I did not say. I put it in the chat. I would like to congratulate because what she said is absolutely the case. We got to get on and do work. To do work, we need people to do the work. If people are going to do the work, they need to be participating in this organization fully. So let's get on with the activity.
Thank you, Tom. And Ruth, you can go ahead.
Okay, very briefly, I'd like to echo what Ngoni said, and that I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. and I'm terrible with names, so forgive me. And that is that if either, or it seems like maybe both of these votes are even remotely close or don't represent a real consensus, and consensus means like unanimity, which I know we don't have. I think, you know, maybe that's the, I had suggested that we just table voting because, you know, we really don't have things to vote on right now. We have the projects to move forward with, but in the absence of tabling voting completely, if we don't have a real consensus, I think Ngoni's idea of returning this back to planning and letting them come up, you know, synthesize this and come up with what, you know, a better a better mousetrap might be the way to go in the new year. So it's looking at both of these motions, and if, you know, it seems like they're both going to fall like sort of exactly oppositely, but if there isn't an obvious you know, preponderance of opinion, then maybe it means that we still need have some work to do.
Thank you, Ruth. And Jim, I do see your real life hand. Let me unmute you. Okay, you can go ahead.
Yeah, this is a tough one. I feel incredibly conflicted. I mean, I have on the screen here, I have a lot of good friends here, and they're on both sides of this issue. And I guess my only thought is that I'm involved in another organization that recently made a decision about voting, and the conclusion that we came to was that if people bust their butt and do a lot of work and are involved in something, and then they're told that their opinion really doesn't matter enough to cast a vote, I think that's quite discouraging. And so, you know, I came here thinking I was going to vote for A, but now I'm kind of leaning toward B. And I know that that disappoints some of my friends on the screen here, but I just feel that what could be wrong? What could go wrong with that? In other words, if having you know, a wider group of people voting causes difficulty, then this whole thing could be amended down the road. But you know, if you want involvement, if you want people to, you know, to roll up their sleeves and do the work, you got to give them some skin in the game, you know? So that's my very conflicted position. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. I don't see any more hands raised. So are we ready for the question?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. So the question is on the adoption of the motion that voting members of the APC are representatives or alternates for one of the 10 organizations on the APC. Individuals who do not represent an organization will be given one vote equal in weight to an organization, which they can cast as a block. I'm not going to read the full list of 10 APC organizations and representatives. You all got it by email. It was presented earlier today. So I'll invite you all in favor to say aye and those opposed to say nay. I'll mute and unmute you individually, and Michelle will tally and calculate the result. We're going with a simple majority, so that's the total number of votes divided by 2 plus 1, and then you were all here to hear the vote of Shelley and Dean, so we'll be including those as well.
What is the 2 plus 1? What was that?
So simple majority. So we're going to do the total number of votes divided by 2 plus 1. Okay, so I'll just mute, unmute individually. Give me 1 second.
Yeah.
Arlene, go ahead.
Why didn't you just ask for a show of hands, Alex?
Is everyone okay with that?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
It's tougher
I'll
to
let
count. It's tougher to count that way.
What do you
It's
want?
tougher to
Okay,
count.
we're okay.
Raise your hands for, what's that?
It's tougher to
What are you
count.
asking if we're okay with?
No, it's tougher to count. A yay or nay vote is much easier.
I think yay. Yeah, I'd rather do
Yeah,
yay.
one by
So
one.
let's stick to the proper procedure then. So I'll go one by one and I'll call your name. You'll let me know if it's yay or if it's nay on option A. Okay, so starting with Arlene, go ahead, Arlene.
Option A, nay.
Nay. Bonnie.
Muted.
Bonnie, go ahead. We didn't
Nay.
hear. Nay.
Nay. 1A.
Thank you. Cass,
Sorry?
is it yay or nay?
Nay.
Deb,
Nay.
Howard,
Aye.
Jaren.
Aye. Yay.
Sorry, I've been saying yay, it might be I. Either way, I know what
The
we mean.
yes
Jason.
one. The thumbs up.
Nay. For option A.
Jim, you can go ahead.
Who?
Me?
Jim, we're listening.
Who?
Nay on this.
Mhm.
Who was that?
That was Jim.
Oh,
Kristen,
Nay for option A.
Larry,
Abstain.
Ah,
Lynn.
wait, I didn't hear what Larry said.
Larry said abstain.
Oh, abstain.
Lynn,
is that a vote? Is that a vote or?
He abstained.
Go ahead, continue.
all right, Lynn,
Yes.
Mel,
No.
Neville,
No.
Ruth,
I,
Tom.
Nay.
who was that? I'm sorry.
That was Tom.
Oh,
And then Beth.
Yay.
Great. Just let Michelle tally the vote. Give her a
6.
couple seconds and then
Mhm.
is anyone familiar with what to do with the abstain? Does that count in the total?
I don't think it'll matter because there's only 6 votes in favor.
Okay.
Yeah, everyone's sort of on and off mute, but so I just have for yays was Shelley, Howard, Jaren, Lynn, Ruth, and Beth. So does that
that's
sound
It's 6, correct.
correct? Okay. Because some people yay and nay, and was hard to hear with everyone's microphones.
That's what I had. That's what I had, and that's accurate. 6
Okay.
yays.
Thanks for double checking. So
Motion fails.
motion fails in that case. And so we still have recommendation B. Would anyone like to bring the second recommendation as a motion to the committee?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so we can now debate the motion. Does anyone have anything they'd like to say for discussion? No? Okay, so we're ready for the question. Oh, Mel, you have your hand raised?
Just want to make it clear. I am highly in favor of recommendation B. I urge these wonderful people to approve it. And so now we can get forward with doing with our lovely planner suggested we do, get moving.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Jared.
What happens if this one also gets nayed?
We will cross that bridge when we get there.
Okay.
Go.
But, good question, of course. All right, thank you, Mel, thank you, Jaren. So the question is on the adoption of the motion. Listen, this is a long one. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I think everyone's had the chance to review both and knows what option B is. So we'll follow the same process. I'll make it more simple. We'll do yes or no, and I'll follow the same order loosely. All right. So Arlene, go ahead. It's yes or no for option B.
Yes.
Yes. Bonnie.
Frozen.
Okay, we'll go back to Bonnie. Oh, Bonnie, can
Bonnie.
you?
Back.
Bonnie,
Yes. Hi.
Thank you. We were having connection issues. Chad,
Now you're frozen.
Chaz says yes for B.
Deb,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Howard, what?
Yes.
yes.
You're voting
Jan?
yes for B?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm muted.
Howard,
now you're on, now you're muted.
you said yes for option B?
Yes, he did.
Okay, thank you. Jaren, go ahead.
No.
Jason,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Kristen,
Yes.
Larry,
Abstaining.
Lynn,
No.
Mel,
Yes.
Neville,
Yes.
Ruth,
No.
Tom,
Yes.
and Beth.
No.
All right, thank you. We can just give another couple seconds to Michelle. Thanks so much, Michelle.
How did Howard vote? I couldn't tell with the muting and
Howard
unmuting.
was a yes.
Howard, you're muted again. Howard, you
Voted
changed
yes.
your vote?
Okay.
You changed
If you
your
would.
vote?
Howard voted yes for the 4th time.
Okay, so I have for yes.
Two of them.
Okay, so I have for yes is Arlene, Bonnie, Chaz, Deb, Jason, Jim, Kristen, Mel, Neville, Howard, and Tom.
And Dean. And Dean.
Oh, right. Yeah, I had him recorded for the first one.
Thank you. So that's 11.
12.
Oh, it's
Do it
12.
again. Yeah, I think it's 12. Do it again, please. I'm
Okay, Michelle,
sorry.
do you mind reading through it again?
Sure. Arlene, Bonnie, Chaz, Deb, Jason, Jim, Kristen, Mel, Neville, Howard, Tom, and Dean.
Right,
Okay,
that's
so that's 12.
count. Right.
Yeah, and so that does pass the simple majority. And so the motion does carry. Tom, go ahead.
I would like to move that, if possible, we make this vote unanimous. I would like to ask those who were, and I'm going to make this right, those who were in favor of the other approach. And I respect them, and I respect their well stated and strongly felt opinion that, like Howard, agree that we need to move forward, and as much as possible, we need to move forward with a recognition of consensus and unanimity. I think this is a motion that was partway between two motions last week. We ought to represent unanimity, if at all possible.
So what's the motion then, Tom?
I'll rephrase it. I would like to ask that those who sincerely felt that the other view was more appropriate agree with us that this is the way we want to move forward, and we put this issue behind us. I would have done the same thing had it gone the other way. Easy for me to say, but I would have done that.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Ruth, I see your hand. Howard, I see your hand. I just want to let everyone know it is past 8 p.m. We do have a motion passed. So if you have to, leave, thank you for being here. And, for those of you that want to stay to continue this discussion, feel free to do so. I can stay here for a couple more minutes. It's no problem. So Ruth, go ahead.
I appreciate the sentiment, and I imagine that of Tom's motion, and I imagine that's why Howard changed his vote. But I think it's important to register our votes. If we don't have a consensus, and this may be something that the county takes under advisement, or we may revisit it at another time. And I am very much looking forward to working with everybody going forward. But I think that we don't have a consensus, and I think it would be I don't think it would be constructive to
You have 12-4.
to do that.
Okay.
I didn't hear, I'm sorry, you interrupted me, but I didn't hear what you had to say. You're muted, Alex, I think.
I am muted. So Mel said that we have 12-4. He was responding to you.
Well, that's fine, but that's not a consensus. A consensus is unanimity, or which Tom is suggesting, or near unanimity, and we don't have that. We have about 1/3, 2/3 at the moment.
Oh my.
So
Oh,
I just think that it's important to register our positions. That doesn't mean that I can't work hand in glove with all the people in this group. I don't agree with this as a voting structure.
fine. Good.
Let me just add here, consensus is not unanimity. Consensus means that that the last holdout says, I can live with this. So maybe I used the wrong term, but I certainly hope, as you implied, Ruth, that we have reached that level of consensus that we can all live with it.
Well,
Thank you.
it looks like we have not, because Lynn said in the chat that she is not comfortable changing her vote. She had to jump off because of childcare. So I
What?
think that it looks like there's a number of us who may not be comfortable changing.
Okay, fine.
Okay.
Fine. You've been offered that. It's fine.
Thank you. All right. If we can stick to the order that we're going
Move to adjourn. Move to adjourn, Alex.
I'd like to hear what Howard has to say. Sorry.
Those of you that have to go, you can go. We're not discussing a motion anymore. If
Great.
you want to continue the discussion, I said I can stay for a couple minutes. Thank you, Arlene, and thank you everyone for being
Thank
here.
you for everything you've done, Alex.
No problem. So Howard, go ahead, and then Kristen, I see your hand.
You're muted again, Howard.
You're muted.
You're muted still.
Howard, you're muted. You're still muted. Darn it.
Okay, I just unmuted you. Oh,
You're still muted.
Maybe let Kristen go and then let Howard go. He
Howard,
work
we
it
can
out.
hear you. Go ahead, Howard.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. I don't think it's fair to ask those who have voted for recommendation A to change their votes and indicate their support for recommendation B. They have their reasons, and I don't think it is fair to ask them to change. I changed my position because I'm anxious to move on with this group. It is obvious what the vote is and where the support is. And even though I didn't agree with that initially, I think it's important that we come together. We've been kicking this can down the road for too long, and it's time to get some substantive done. So let's move ahead and everybody together.
Agree.
Thank you, Howard.
Agreed. I agree with Howard. I think I respect everyone's opinion, and I'm glad the people who voted different from me stuck to their guns, and that's fantastic. But then we can all work together at the end of the day. That is wonderful. So I think just the simple majority, which was originally planned, is enough, and that's fantastic. And I look forward to working with everyone here.
Thank you, Kristen.
Move we adjourn.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Next steps, the only thing I have is that we're going to move or change the meeting time to 7 p.m. going forward. We can stick
What's the
to
date?
What's the date?
Yeah, I was just going to say we can stick to the last Monday of the month. In this case, I think that's January 30th. I might be out of town January 30th, so if everyone's okay with January 23rd, You know, it's end of the
Right.
month, close enough, I think.
That's
So
fine.
okay with that, we can go with that, and I'll send it out by email.
January 23rd or 30th?
23rd is I think what would work.
Good night, all. I gotta go get
Thank
dinner.
you. Yeah, have a good
Great, Alex, you are fantastic. I'm gonna.
Thank
Well done.
Well done, honey. Well done, John.
Have a
Since we already have a, thank you, Mel. Since we already have a vote, now we have a voting structure in place. Can
Yes.
we do the projects? Can we, can you put out an agenda early so that we can work on our projects and present them in January?
Yeah, so we, based on the information that Gonay presented earlier today, we do have to include that criteria, like she mentioned, in you know, the process that we're going to go through with the worksheets. But now that the voting, now that we decided on a structure, we can certainly tackle the worksheets next. So I'll let everyone know what that next step is, and when it comes to presenting the worksheets, I'll make sure everyone has enough time to be able to prepare for that.
Alex, when
Yeah.
they're presented, you know,
Yeah.
talking about presenting them, will that be assuming that they've already gone through the rubric process, or will this be a chance to present them and then the organization will run them through the rubric, or are you going to take some time to figure out?
Yeah, I think we
how
need
that's
some
gonna
time
be
to figure
done?
that out within the organization subcommittee, make sure it aligns, like I said, with the updates that Gonay gave. So I'll keep everyone updated on that. That's certainly the next step, is to figure all that out. So I'm really looking forward to it. Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
Alex, quick one, Alex, real quick.
Go ahead.
Can we submit some comments about what might be on the agenda and you consider it for the
Yeah.
January meeting? Okay, that's just
Yeah,
want to
go ahead.
clarify. Great.
Okay, great. All right.
Good night.
Thanks.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.